jungle music completely with Serum 2. Serum 2 on Breakbeats is super wild. It's only been out for a couple weeks now and I'm still wrapping my head around all the new features, but I've already found some powerful ways to use it with Breakbeats that I want to share. In this video, I'll show you some tricks I've learned for slicing, warping, bussing, and even mangling breaks inside Serum 2's new sampler, which by the way is absolutely insane. There's even a clip view now, which opens up a whole new way to work with the audio. Let's dive in and push this thing to the limit. So for this exercise, I'm going to be using some breaks from my Vaults sample pack, which just came out. Vaults is a collection of all my legacy samples from over 25 years ago, from personally constructed breakbeats, as well as bass sounds created from my Virus B synth. Here's the break from 40 Days. Changeling. My Amen break from Guillotine. The Amen break from The Nasty on Architecture Recordings. The break from Preacher. Tons of other cool breaks. You can grab the Vault sample pack at 20% off down in the links below. Make sure to grab it before the sale ends. Alright, to slice breaks with Serum, first go into the first oscillator and we're going to change it into the sampler mode. And this is where you can drag samples into this window here. So I'm going to grab the FU break from Vaults and pull it right in here. And immediately you can trigger the sample with your keyboard. To slice each hit and map it to your keys, just right click on the sample and choose either slice auto or manual. Let's first use auto, and the first hit will be placed on C1. Now check out this horizontal line. This controls the sensitivity of the auto slicer. The higher it is, the less slices it will catch. Sometimes you might notice that certain slices cannot be detected, so you'll have to right click and choose slice manual, and then you can add your own slice. Let's zoom in and fine tune. For example, this one wasn't very clean. So in manual mode, you can click and drag the lines to clean it up. You can also right click and snap to the 0 point. That'll make your slices cleaner. You can also use your mouse jog wheel to zoom in and out. So to add a new slice manually, hold Alt and click. It'll create a new slice. Alt and click. All right, so we have all our slices. Now from here, you can either sequence it directly in your DAW using your key roll, or you can use Ableton's clip editor. I'm just going to use Ableton's clip editor so you can see how it's done in there, because you already know how to sequence it in a regular DAW. So go and turn on the clip mode on the bottom left Serum, and then click to open up the clip view, and then we can sequence in some notes. To preview the clip, just launch the play key. If you want to increase the clip length, just go into the length parameter here and type in 2 bars, for example. To zoom out, you can click and drag on the ruler up or down. Or you can hold Alt and drag wheel to zoom vertically. Or you have an area selected, then you can hold down Control and use the jog wheel. For some reason, horizontal zooming doesn't work unless you select a note and then hold the Control jog wheel. Let's take these notes. You can hit Control D to copy. I wonder if Command D does the same for Mac. So here's some cool things you can do with Serum as a sampler. First and foremost, there's this scan knob, which increases the rate it plays the sample. So essentially it pitches the sample up or down. The pitch algo sounds really good, especially for lower notes. You'll notice that each slice is so short, if you pitch it up, the sample may end early. And that's an issue we had when chopping up breaks in Ableton. Now, Serum has provided a way to resolve this, which is similar to what I do in Recycle, which is adding a tail, which is amazing. So if you right click on this one-shot mode, you can choose tailed, and it'll add a tail at the end of the slice so it sounds smoother and doesn't sound chopped off. So glad that 𝗙𝗢𝗘𝗘 and team added this. Another benefit of using Serum 2 as a sampler are the warp modes. And now we have 2 different warp modes. And let's check the first one. We see that there's now addition of filters and distortions, not to mention true FM and old FM, which is PD mode. Let's try this one. So that's a filter. We can add tube distortion. You can even do some funky stuff by doing FM with an aim and break. So turn on oscillator B, bring the level all the way down, and use FM mode or PD mode from B and increase the amount. Let's employ the second warp mode, turn on the filter. And this mode increases the slope, I believe. Sounds amazing. Here's a neat thing you can try, unison mode with an aim and break. And increase the detune mode. Seems to make the break sound thicker. Here's a neat trick I learned from 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗘's channel. If you change the one-shot mode to forward loop and then change the loop length with this LE parameter, and then choose relative loop, and then change the LE parameter to smaller values, you'll get some interesting stutter effects. You can even map macro 1 to the LE length, change the amount to around here, and then you can then automate the macro 1 for interesting stutter effects. Also, try experimenting with the other loop modes. The reverse mode sounds pretty cool. Love that Serum 2 now comes with dual filters. Let's turn on filter 1 and employ a low pass. Now, going into this little F1 button beside oscillator A, we can dial the amount that goes to filter 1 as well as filter 2. If we put it in the middle, it's going to go to each one equally. Now let's turn off filter 1 and go to filter 2. So right now they're playing in parallel, meaning they're mutually exclusive. Now click on filter 2 and you can use these letters to indicate which engines or oscillators the filter is being applied to. So currently we're only using oscillator A. And let's change filter 2 to some of the new filters. Love this DJ mix filter. This diffuser is pretty good too. And let's bring back filter 1. Now, if you want the filters to play in serial, then send it only to filter 1. And then in the mix window here, just specify that filter 1 will feed into filter 2. And then you have some interesting routing effects with the filtering. You can maybe use one of the format filters. I can only imagine the cool things you can do with this when you're mapping it to the XY pad. In fact, let's just do that. Let's go into LFO2 and we're going to change it from normal mode to path. And then you can select from a number pre-made paths in the preset menu. You can scroll through some really interesting paths. And you'll notice that you can choose X or Y. So I'm going to choose for X. Let's turn on filter 2 actually with that format filter. And we're going to play with the cutoff using the X parameter. And then for the Y parameter, we'll play with the format parameter here. To make sure you do it correctly, you can just go into the matrix and just make sure the first one is LFO2, which is by default. I think that's the X, and then LFO2Y is the filter 2 variant. And of course, play with the rate. This is going really fast. It's a long path. Make sure maybe try a 2-bar. From keeping it from retriggering, just make sure it's on free mode here to play through the entire path. I can imagine you can do some pretty cool Amen edits using this kind of method. Funky. So this could be fun. You can add noise on top of your sample, so enabling the noise. Let's just mute oscillator A for a moment. And I like the new color modes. You have 4 modes. We can try the white mode. And you can apply a filter to it. This might be useful if you want to enhance the high end of your break. I'll show you how you can do this with LFOs momentarily. So if we go into LFO 1 and make this kind of short shape, it's currently set to quarter notes. We can set LFO 1 to the level of the noise and just bring the level all the way down and move the amount of modulation all the way up. So it'll trigger the noise and create kind of this hi-hat sound every time you trigger a note. And play with the filtering. And then bring back the Amen. Here's another cool thing you can do with the LFO. Since we have this kind of a shape, you can control the decay of the note using LFO 1. So if we bring the level all the way down on the sampler and pull LFO 1, you notice now it sounds more choppy. You can make it an 8th note to make even choppier on the LFO. And then if you bring a high pass or low pass into the mix, and then apply LFO 1 to the cutoff, increase the resonance. Can get some interesting effects. Try the S2 filters. You might get some interesting results, such as the acid ladder. And then bring back the noise. You can add the filter to the noise as well. Interesting results. All right, let's go into the effects section and see what's new. We now have 3 sections. You have the main effects. You can also have 2 bus effects. We're going to focus on the main section for the moment. And let's add some distortion. Maybe we want to automate LFO 1 to the drive amount. Then make the attacks more punchy. There's a new overdrive mode here, which has stack 1 and stack 2. Is it new? Maybe I never noticed it before. I still like the original tube mode. To me, that sounds the best. What's really exciting are the new effects. First and foremost, there's this Bode mode, which I think is a frequency shifter. Change the width down to 0. Completely change the character of your break, and I'm sure you can use this to create some interesting break edits. Neat. There's also the new Convolve effect, and this is going to be interesting. It's like putting your break into a room. So if you click, you can choose different impulse responses. For example, you may want to change the decay amount. I think this will be useful for completely changing the character of your audio material. You can create completely new breaks or like tones with your breaks. This bits motion impulse response sounds interesting. Be wary of the mix amount. As you increase it, it can become super loud. So this is going to be very useful. Let's add some reverb. You can try the new reverb modes such as nitrous or basin. Neat. Now here's how I would use the bus modes. Let's go into bus 1 and I'm going to add a reverb. Let's play with the bass in mode. Turn the mix all the way to 100. And using the LFO 4, I can determine when I want to use the bus. So I'm going to be adding the bus reverb anytime the snare hits. So I'm going to add, using this horizontal mode, just punch it in on these notes. Just make sure your LFO rate is 1 bar and you're in free mode. And then on the matrix, choose LFO 4. And then we're going to map it to routing bus 1. And then just increase the modulation amount to max if you like. Now the snare will be sent into bus 1 every time it hits, and it'll trigger the reverb. Here's another cool thing you can do with effects. Let's go back into the main section and perhaps add a filter. I love that you can add multiple instances of each effect now. For example, we might want to add a flanger, and using LFO 5, we may want to automate the cutoff frequency of the flanger, and it will just change this to envelope mode and make it 1 bar. And then using this horizontal mode, we can play with different levels here, and they'll trigger the flange on specific notes of the bar. Just make sure in your free mode on LFO 5. Let's make it faster. Or slower. Really interesting and fun experimentation. Now we're currently using this break with a simple sampler mode. One of the most talked about modes with Serum 2 is the Spectral mode. So if we go into the oscillator A and choose the drop down and select Spectral mode, what this does is it analyzes your audio and recreates that audio with its partials or with sine waves. Now this will create some interesting results when you're playing it at different pitches and warping it. Now the only thing I find is that it doesn't reproduce the transients very well, so it may seem kind of odd, but it might work to your benefit depending on what you want to get out of your sound. So let's check it out. And you can play with the scan mode, which is again how fast it scrolls through the sample. Now, negative modes will play it in reverse. Now, the benefit of the spectral mode is you have these spectral warping modes. That's interesting. It almost sounds musical as you increase the harmonics warp mode. Now, it is getting kind of loud, so I'm going to bring it down. But very interesting. Experiment with different modes and see what you get from it. I'll let you guys browse through and try the different modes and see what you guys find. Comment down below and let me know which modes you like the most. A really neat thing you can do with the spectrum mode is if you click on this filter section, you can add your own filter shape here. For example, we can do this kind of high pass over here, and then you can increase the amount of the filter cutoff using this dial here. Really neat. Now, one final thing, you can actually create almost a full tune using Serum with additional oscillators. So if you enable oscillator B, we can create kind of a sub bass. Now, on the bottom of this little key area here, if you choose oscillator mapping, we can limit the key range for each oscillator. For example, the samples, we may just want to limit it to these keys here, which is the break. And then oscillator B, which is that sine wave, we can limit all the way up here so that they never overlap. So the key range is dedicated to specific sounds. And now we can go into the clip editor and add notes. And you can see these notes are specifically for that sine wave. And this is the A min. And then we can draw in some notes here. Now, if your note isn't playing the right octave, just go in here and just play with the octave. And then using LFO 3, we can shape the sine wave a little, maybe add a shape like this, and then map it to the coarse pitch. Let's change it to 1 bar. So this fast area creates a attack, and then there's a slow pitch down. Now, if you don't like the sine wave being distorted with all the effects, you can send the sine wave as direct out. And then you can add some drive to the sine wave. And then adjust the volume. I'm sure you could even then apply a secondary filter on warp mode, add a low pass. I wonder if we apply LFO 6 to this filter and then make it a faster. Oh, very neat. Play with the different distortion modes. And voila, you got some jungle. Let's increase unison mode to 2. Make that bass sound wider, bring that noise back. You can even add some stereo depth to that noise by increasing this parameter here. Some really interesting things you can do with Serum 2. All right, let's put everything together in a track. Actually, I found this linear full distortion mode that creates some interesting mid-bass sounds when you increase the amount. So then I added a sub bass on top of that within the same mapping range on the keyboard. And then we have the breakbeat. Also, if you go into the clip, I actually extended the amount, and I found that you can actually automate the macros and other parameters here. So here I'm automating one of the macros for, I think, the distortion amount as well as the filter. And then finally, I'm playing with the linear fold amount to create different phases of the bass. So let's check it all out. Dirty. We have the beginnings of some nasty jungle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching me mangling up some breaks using Serum 2. Tons of interesting new ways for sound design, and we're just digging through the surface. From the different slicing modes to different warp modes, effects, and filtering, there's so much more you can do with Serum 2 now, and I'm excited to see how producers will take sound to the next level. Comment down below if there's some features you'd like me to explore in a future video. My name is 𝗙𝗙𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗪, music producer of over 25 years, and if you want to improve your music production and sound design, then make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel. Also, check out 𝗙𝗢𝗙𝗪𝗡.com for sample packs, preset packs, and ableton kits to help you along your journey. My Vault sample pack is out now with nearly a gig of my legacy samples from over 25 years ago, from signature breaks I've created to even pads and bass sounds I created from the 𝗙𝗙𝗢𝗪𝗙. There's tons of cool sounds that you can use. You can learn more down in the links below. For more videos on sound design, check this playlist up here. To see more videos about mangling breakbeats, check this playlist up here. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay creative and peace out.